looking for a woman who spoke, but not obnoxiously, and I just thought of Jean Kirkpatrick, maybe. I was wondering if there was any difference in intelligence levels between Hillary Clinton and Jean Kirkpatrick. Anyway, that wasn't my point. I just think it's incredible, Lisa. I think you're way out of line. I think it's just a farce. I think you're perhaps looking for ratings. Like, that's the only reasoning I can think of. Firstly, Hillary Clinton has just totally dismissed the fact that her husband is a known adulterer. How is this possibly going to reflect her, her desire for the strong family unit?
Steve, that is her. Well, what do you say? If she had divorced him, if she had dumped him,
she has to accept it in some way. Has she addressed it? What is her? That's just my first point. Okay.
She's denied it.
No, well, it's on tape.
No, she said
we hear the tape every day.
They have said I'm not defending her or the choices that she has made within her marriage. Those are her choices. What I'm saying is I think it's pathetic that all the Republicans can come up with is to attack women. Look at this. All they do is attack women. They're anti-abort. They're anti-choice. Wait a minute. They're anti-choice. They attack. Who do they attack? Anita Hill and Hillary Clinton.
I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just saying this man has done something.
That's all they can do.
I'm stating as fact. Okay, I'm not attacking him. Okay. Number two. Bill Clinton has never had a federal job. The man has never had to conduct any foreign policy.
Did Ronald Reagan?
I'm not talking about Ronald Reagan. I'm talking about Bill Clinton, presidential candidate.
Ronald Reagan was a governor?
I'm not talking about Ronald Reagan, Lisa. This is where you try to just dissuade the point. We're not talking about Ronald Reagan. I'm talking about your choice, Bill Clinton.
Yeah, but Steve, hold up on that point. I was a Ronald Reagan supporter to some degree, although I didn't vote for him. Didn't vote for him against Dukakis. Didn't vote against him for Mondale. Yeah, but he had absolutely no foreign expertise when he was running for president.
The fact that previous presidents have had no foreign policy doesn't make Bill Clinton stronger because of the...
Steve, in George Bush's word himself, aside from voodoo economics, which he used in the primary against Ronald Reagan, he said, who would you rather have running the White House? Myself, former head of the CIA, a guy who is well-renowned and respected around the world, understanding foreign international complex issues, or Ronald Reagan, whose only claim to fame is sending the National Guard out onto the campuses of California State University to get Angela Davis?
I'd rather have somebody from the CIA who's put us on the wrong side of just about every international conflict.
Get off of it. Get off of your stump. Let's go to Vicky from Virginia Beach.
Good morning.
Good morning, Vicky.
Curtis, you have my deepest sympathies, honey.
I understand.
Lisa.
Yes?
When did you become a champion of Hillary Clinton?
I'm not a champion of Hillary Clinton, Vicky. I'm just saying that I think it's very odd that all the Republicans can do, because their whole platform is so weak, their campaign is so pathetic, all they can do is attack women. They attacked Anita Hill, they resurrected her, they're attacking Hillary Clinton, they're attacking a woman's right to choose. This is what they're basing their campaign on, because they don't want anybody to focus on what they haven't done.
Excuse me, but you attacked Hillary Clinton during the primaries, terrible.
I'm not a big fan. I have to tell you, I am not a big fan of Hillary Clinton. What I'm saying is, as a woman, and looking at the way that they treat women, it's disgusting.
Yeah, but you feminist women want equality. You're getting it, honey. Sit back and enjoy the ride.
That's right.
I mean, and what have you got against Mexicans? I've heard you make a couple remarks about
I have nothing against Mexican Americans or Mexicans at all. We were referring to George Bush's grandchild.
I know, but you kind of made a little snide remark, and I've heard, what's that woman's name that tried to take Curtis's place when he was sick?
Oh, Lynn Samuels.
Oh, that one sounds like a parrot.
Yeah. All right, well, Vicky calling from the state of Lovers, Virginia. Boy, you get our signal at this time of the morning down in Virginia.
Yes, and I love your show. And Lisa,
yes,
please don't be a hypocrite, honey. I mean, if you want equality, Hillary Clinton was the one that first brought up the cookie thing.
That's right.
I mean, she was the first one that mentioned it.
Vicky, let me tell you something. I feel myself, I live it the way I say it. I take the heat. You play with the boys. You got to be prepared to take the swings and the blows and the low blows.
That's right.
And I've taken my share, and I don't complain about it.
Not only that, Vicky.
If I'm gonna play with the boys, I got to be prepared to take the hits, and I have.
Now, remember, Vicky has experience there in Virginia, because she has that senator with his ants in his pants who needs to dance, Chuck Robb.
And he's a Democrat.
That's right, a Democrat, and boy.
Hey, and Lisa, if you will show me some evidence, without a shadow of a doubt, that my president cheated on Mrs. Bush, then I won't vote for him.
That's
if
right.
you can show me the evidence.
Okay, well, I think if he was as friendly with a certain high-profile, fast-living businessman in New York as he is supposed to have been, there'll be more coming out right after
innuendo.
this
Notice this,
campaign.
Vicky. Innuendos. No tape.
I know. Give me the proof.
That's
Give me
right.
the proof.
We saw the tape yesterday of Al Sharpton in Congress dealing with mobsters, right, for the whole world to see. But have we seen anything about George Bush? No. Thank you, Vicky.
Vicky, thanks for the call.
Calling all the way down from Virginia Beach.
I love that accent. 6:55 on WABC. Talk Radio 77, the Curtis and Lisa SLIWA Show right now.
Here this morning.
Okay, just to sort of recap, what are the specific points of your welfare reform program that has begun receiving attention from around the country?
Well, we did three things, basically, within the welfare reform. We first put the family back together, said families are important to stay together. But secondly, we required all families, in order to get benefits, is to go back to school or job training in order that they become self-sufficient. And thirdly, we said that while you're on welfare, if you decided to have any more children, you had to go out and work for any additional children that you decided to have while you're on welfare, getting retrained or educated so that you can become self-sufficient.
Now, Wayne Bryant, let's say this had taken place 10 years ago, and it was a white Republican assembly person or state senator, or let's say even a federal congressperson who made this statement. Wouldn't they have been accused of being a racist? Wouldn't they have been attacked as being insensitive towards the needs of the welfare recipients?
Well, I don't think that's completely true, and two reasons. Number one is that if you took Moynihan, who had a history, or the late Senator Hines, who had a history in dealing with some of these human needs and stuff like that, I don't think they would have been considered a racist. Secondly, there are more whites nationally than blacks or Hispanics on welfare, so I mean, I don't think one has to be considered a racist. It depends on whether, in fact, they understood what the welfare system actually did. And number two is what the needs were to make people become self-sufficient so they can support themselves.
Now, Assemblyman Bryan, take the case that we see so often. A young woman gets pregnant, she has a baby, she's not married. How would the state, how would New Jersey, under these welfare reform laws, treat her? Would she be able to get welfare, or what would happen?
She would be able to get welfare, but two things would happen completely. Number one is that if, in fact, she lacked a high school diploma, she would immediately, in order to get her welfare check, have to go back to school in order to get a high school diploma so she could be job trained for a job to become self-sufficient. Secondly, if, in fact, her child was in school or needed help in school, she would end up being required to do all those things necessary to make sure that child got the help it needed while it was in school. Fourthly, if in fact she decided to have another child while she was on welfare, she would be informed that you can have a child if you want, but you will go out to work for that additional child. You will get no additional money for a second child at that point in time.
Well, you know, for a long time, Wayne Bryant, Assemblyman of New Jersey, it seems that welfare mothers, white or black, have been having children like loaves of bread coming out of the oven because it's been profitable. Actually, by having children, they've been able to get more welfare benefits.
Well, and
has there ever been discussion, though, serious discussion, of mandatory, say, like Norplant, which would act naturally as a method so that that woman would not be bringing any more children into the world, particularly in a financial position, but in the future, if she decided to have any children, the Norplant could be removed, and again, she could end up having as many children as she liked?
I don't think there's been any active discussion. I think what happens is that if, in fact, you believe that welfare ought to be a temporary system, you have to say to folks is that you have to instill the values of working class America. And no place in America do we pay people for having additional children. What do we allow them to do? Either to work harder, longer, or get a second job. I think we ought to have the same values in a welfare system. You want to have additional children, that's your choice. But you do what all the rest of us do. You go out and you work for it.
Now, Wayne, how are you going to get the message across, especially to young people? Because we see, especially with low-income young people, young women, they look upon this having a baby and getting that welfare check. That's like their ticket to independence, whereas in more affluent families, they look towards college or something like that. How are you going to get the message to these young people so that they know they have to take responsibility for their actions?
Well, it's not going to be that difficult. I mean, I think what you're going to find is that as people come into welfare and realize that they have to go back to school or job training, and that hooks up with your check, failure to do that, to come to school, failure to perform well in school. I mean, we have two conditions within our welfare grants, that you lose 20% of your grant money. So in other words, you could come to class, but if you fail to decide that you don't even want to try, you could still lose 20% of your grant. And if you do it 3 times, you're off the welfare system for 2 years. So, I mean, it's not going to take much. One thing in the community of welfare, people start to understand clearly as folks see that their responsibility or failure of responsibility will trigger a certain reaction in terms of economic well-being. And I think people will do what is in their best interest.
Mm-hmm. Now, Wayne Bryant, we've seen the red carpet rolled out for you by the Republican administration. They've embraced your concept, maybe verbally. I don't know if they've moved to tactically try to incorporate any of your welfare reform laws that have been passed in New Jersey. But I was a little disappointed at the Democratic National Convention with the kind of attention that Wayne Bryant, yourself, sponsor of this legislation, leading member of the state legislature, and naturally Governor Florio got nationally for this welfare reform. I didn't see Bill Clinton make mention of it. I didn't see it as the key point of the platform in terms of welfare reform for the Democrats. Weren't you a little bit disappointed that they weren't carrying your banner high at the Democratic National Convention?
Well, I didn't do it for that purpose. I mean, I saw welfare as a failed system that was not helping our society. Those who either pay the bill or those who actually are supposed to benefit from being on welfare. But I can say in the Democratic platform, there was a lot of attention because I was contacted personally about how, in fact, what would be the standard as the Democrats within the platform. And I think you'll find that the platform is completely different than what you would have seen in years past.
Okay, and then one last thing. A story came over the wire earlier today, welfare fraud in the Jersey City office there. Workers cashing checks belonging to others, people coming in with 2 or more Social Security cards, applying under a number of different surnames. You know, that bugs the hell out of a lot of working class people and people who are down on their luck, who maybe are on unemployment, saying, how the hell are these people getting 3, 4, 5 checks, and some of these welfare workers able to cash checks that don't belong to them?
They should be fired, and we should be very, very hard on those kind of things. And secondly, anybody who is using 3 identities ought to be prosecuted. I mean, we have to work on all fronts on those kind of issues.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being with us this morning, New Jersey Assemblyman Wayne Bryant. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
And imagine walking down the streets of New York as you come to work. 1 out of every 7 residents is now on welfare. That means you see 7 people coming towards you. 1 of them potentially is on welfare.
Let's go to Phyllis from Manhattan. Good morning, Phyllis.
Yes, I wanted to comment on the welfare reform. I'm not saying don't reform it or don't cut back and do the things he was suggesting. It's just that the intent, trying to stop women from having babies, it may not solve that problem because they could be having these babies for a totally different reason.
But you'd have
and wait a minute. Well, being that we're so far removed, those of us who call in on the radio, who are talk show hosts, that sort of thing, we're so far removed, and I'm finding that women are having babies for other reasons, and it has a lot to do with depression, low self-esteem. Some of them feel that, gee, if I had a baby, I would have somebody to love me.
Yeah, but Phyllis,
and they don't think about
Phyllis,
as far as the supporting.
No, I'm not. Phyllis, I'm not going to accept that.
Welfare because of that. I think the welfare system should be reformed. But I just wanted to comment that all this reform you're trying to do to stop women from having children, it just might not achieve the particular goal you're trying to reach.
Right, but Phyllis, a lot of young girls, I mean, I agree with you partially, but a lot of young girls, too, the fact that they can get that check and they have that to fall back on, that makes that a very attractive possibility for them, and they don't need the father around.
What makes it a very attractive possibility for them as far as having a child is perhaps, in some cases, or many cases, I would say, from girls I spoke to, is the father, that boy, okay, that they like, and the situations or emotions that are involved with this boy.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Phyllis. Boy, she's getting around. You know, I have seen mothers sitting around tables who had welfare kids, right, telling their daughters how you get more for having more. This nonsense about, oh, well, they may not. Let me tell you, it gets down to a financial do-re-mi in many situations. As long as you reward baby making and you treat it like taking loaves of bread out of an oven, then you're just going to have more of it. I say give them Norplant. Let's get rough and tough with these people. If you can't take care of your own kids, don't expect us to do it for for you, or just implant that Norplant. And when you want to have kids and you can afford kids, you take it out and you're a baby-making machine again.
Curtis,
What's so tough about that?
Curtis and Lisa with you on WABC Talk Radio 77. Well, welfare, this is one of the issues that the presidential campaign should be focused on, Curtis, not on who is sleeping with who.
Well, sleeping with who is dominating the headlines from Jersey, 201-489-WABC. They're going after Hillary Clinton, those Republicans saying she's the weak link, 201-489-WABC. From Connecticut, New York, Long Island, Westchester, the 5 boroughs. Barbara Bush says, don't ask those questions, media, 212-563-WABC. And Dan Quill says, you're sleazoids. Look in the mirror. How can you deal with yourself? 212-563-WABC. I agree with them. They are just muckrakers.
This Ruth.
Good morning. I would like to respond to the issue about paying people to have children on welfare.
Okay.
Curtis said something a while ago that I've been saying for about 15 years. Pay them, we should stop people. I think we should pay them not to have babies.
Mm-hmm.
And not only people on welfare. When I first had the idea about 15 years ago, I used to say any woman between the ages of 21 and 40 who's already had one child should be paid $10,000 if she sterilizes herself. Now I would say 20. And I wouldn't confine it to people on welfare or people of one color, anybody. That would take the money that's being paid now for welfare and spread it around. Middle class, upper class, no questions asked, no numbers needed, anybody. If somebody really needs a financial break, you know, if you had a child, if your husband deserted you, if you're having, for whatever, there's the money.
Well, Ruth, figure it out this way. A lot of these kids end up caught up in the criminal justice system, costing us $32.5 a year to give them a cot and 3 hots.
That's what I say. If you take the cost of having one child, the welfare payments, which is nothing, you know, people are talking about the welfare. How about social workers? How about school teachers? How about counselors? Then that's even before you get into the justice system.
Okay, well, Ruth, do appreciate your comments. A lot of people feel like that, Mr. Slee. I don't care what their party affiliation is. Let's go to Charlie from Hillary.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, excuse me, from
Talking
Pennsylvania.
about Hillary. Good morning, Charlie.
Good morning, Curtis and Lisa. How are you today?
I thought you were from Hillary, Pennsylvania.
No, I'm from Bangor. Remember, I'm the one that exposed Uncle Bob to you guys.
Yes. Kudos to you.
Listen, I kind of wanted to direct a little bit at Lisa, and I know that she's been pounded this morning, and
rightfully so. Rightfully so.
But not all of
Charlie, it's all right because like I said, when you're in the frying pan, you got to get used to the heat.
Well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about equality and equal rights, which I'm for 100%. But as we all know, that equality has no advantages. Okay. Now, the feminist movement kind of wants to take people and go towards that, giving a little bit more of an edge to the women's movement. Now, my example is people so often want to come down on deadbeat fathers, which is the right thing to do, but the people forget about dads like me who pay my dues.
And don't get the visitation rights.
Exactly.
Well, that happens too. There's deadbeat moms as well. There's mothers that make more money now and aren't paying up when the...
But nobody makes the point of it. Now, I have my daughter, and on Saturday I'm flying her back to Florida to her mother, and I won't see her for another year. At my expense. You know, people want to yell equal rights, and that's what Hillary Clinton's doing, okay? And it's great to fight for the equal rights, but don't forget about the people that are being stepped on the way.
All right. Well, do appreciate that, Charlie. A little personal point of view. By the way, you said you were in the frying pan, right? Today you are getting sizzled. Would you prefer Mazola corn oil or Crisco oil?
No, I'd like something like canola oil that has less in saturated fats. On WABC Talk Radio 77.
I'd fry you in Bertolli olive oil.
You can't fry with olive oil. The Curtis and Lisa SLIWA Show? I don't think. We better ask Aunt Mary on that one. WABC Talk Radio 77. The Curtis and Lisa SLIWA Show. We're talking about the presidential campaign. What's the real issue? Hillary Clinton or issues like welfare reform, jobs, the state of the economy? Give us a call from New York, Long Island, Connecticut, 212-563-WABC. 212-563-WABC. I say the Republicans are running scared. From New Jersey, 201-489-WABC, 201-489-WABC. Curtis and Lisa with you. Good morning. It's 65 degrees outside at 7.